Sandra Dozier was driving home from work on a cold, brisk morning in 2000. She was on Alabama Avenue in Southeast DC when a police car pulled up behind her with the lights flashing. And I'm sure most of us have, or many of us have felt that experience at one time in our life, in the sinking feeling. She pulled over, gave her license and registration when requested, but couldn't help but saying, "Why are y'all messing with me? I'm just coming home from work." Without answering, the officer took the documents, went back to the patrol car, returned a few minutes later, said, "We're going to need to check the tint levels on your windows to make sure they're not too high." She said, "I had the work done at a reputable shop. I'm sure they followed the correct specifications." The officer said, "Regardless, we need to check." But then he pivoted the conversation and said, "We've been having a lot of problems with guns and shootings and weapons. Do you have anything like that in your car?" She was taken back by that question and said, "If you're looking for guns, you're looking at the wrong person." She had a brother that had been shot 2 years previously, and another one that had been locked up for gun charges. She had determined to stay as far away as she could from guns. The officer seemed to understand. He nodded. He said, "Well, seeing you don't have anything, you don't mind if we go ahead and do a quick check, right?" She figured, well, they're probably going to check anyway. And she knew she didn't have any weapons, so she gave permission for them to do the search. And as promised, there were no weapons found. But the other officer found a couple of baggies of marijuana in the glove compartment, worth about $20. When the officer emerged from the vehicle carrying those baggies, she lost it. She said, "You can't lock me up for this. I've got to be at work tomorrow. I've just started a new job. If I'm not there, I'm sure they're going to fire me." The two officers conferred, and after their conference, the first one came back to her and said, "Well, you've got a clean record and there's no outstanding warrants, so I'll release you with this piece of paper that says you need to appear." She was on time for her court date, waited there the whole day, and eventually at the end of the day, she was told her marijuana possession charges were being non-papered, meaning the prosecutor wasn't going to file charges. So there were no charges against her. She was a free person. Now that might seem like a good turnout, but there is more to the story. She was on her probation period working at FedEx. At the end of that period, she was required to bring in a printout to show that she has a clean record. But of course, that marijuana possession charge showed up on the report, and she was immediately fired. She went to a lawyer to see if she could get some help. The lawyer looked at the report and said, "I'm not used to working with somebody that's got this clean of a record, and the only thing on it was a non-papered marijuana possession charge." He told her, "But you're a probationary employee. Basically, you don't have any rights there, and employers can use anything on your record, including arrests, to make their hiring decisions." She visually slumped in the chair, hearing that, thinking there's no hope. But the lawyer decided he would go ahead and give the supervisor a call. Called the supervisor. "Yes, I'm calling on behalf of Sandra Dozier," and proceeded with his pitch to get her reinstated. He focused on the prosecutor's decision not to prosecute. He said, "One of the most frivolous charges are non-papered. And remember, this was just an arrest, not a conviction." The supervisor was fairly compassionate in his response, said, I really like her. I was rooting for her, but when I got back that report with the rest on it, there's nothing I could do. It wasn't my decision. We have a firm policy. If someone is arrested while on probation, we cannot hire them." And the supervisor ended the call. The lawyer gave her a flyer about job fairs. Job fairs. I know all about job fairs. She had gone to every job fair she could find for years. Finally, she gets this job, and she'd still have it if it weren't for this. She looked down, her eyes wet, her shoulders slumped. She turned around and walked out the long hall, full of discouragement. Now, if I were to reminisce about my past in being arrested, if I had been arrested when I was on probation, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. And we wouldn't have been able to have the fun times we've been able to have together. The lawyer reflected about the futility of her efforts. A just world would care that she grew up in a neighborhood with very few jobs. A just world would care that she went to a school where there was a 50% dropout rate, that she had lost relatives to crime and violence, but she had resisted and overcome all of that. A just world would label her an achiever, a striver, a person with grit. But her strength of character, her diploma, her certificate of being intern of the month, none of that mattered now. Her life was being governed now by a single line on a Superior Court document. Sandra Dozier, DOB 7377, arrest, possession of controlled substance, marijuana, 21500. A just world would care about the rest of the story.